Hi everyone, it's Michael, and it's time for the February 2019 Orchid Collection Update. You guys, I am so excited to share what's going on with my collection this month because even though it's still officially winter, my plants really are beginning to transition out of that slow-moving and unremarkable winter growth pattern into the momentum-filled sprint forward of spring. So a lot of really exciting things happening. I actually have a plant that's in spike that I never expected to survive, much less ever go into spike, so I can't wait to share that with you. Now, as always, I do want to give you a brief snapshot of what my system looks like. It's no different than what I was doing last month. So I'm continuing to flush all of my collection with reverse osmosis water once to twice a month, and I'm also watering with a dilute nutrient solution made with reverse osmosis water. Now, having said all that, the only other thing I wanted to mention is that my subscriber count continues to skyrocket. You guys, I just celebrated 10,000 subscribers, and now I'm past 15,000 subscribers. I still have no idea where it's coming from, but here's what I do know. I am so incredibly grateful to all of you who choose to spend your time with me and who want to come along on this orchid growing adventure. So just know that I love you and I'm so appreciative of your presence and your time. So without further lead-in, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about all of the plants that something new, different, and interesting is happening with this month. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and jump in with number one in the collection. This is my no ID mini Phalaenopsis, and it's also the first orchid I ever owned. I am so surprised that this is still alive because it suffered a lot of mistreatment when I had no idea what I was doing. But the interesting thing is this has become two plants. So if I take you in, you can see that this basal Keiki that I developed is now almost the same size as the mother plant, which is quite uncommon. Now my concern is if I don't divide this eventually, it'll become parasitic and one will strangle out the other. But for now, I'm just kind of observing its development and just watching what's happening because quite frankly, it's very interesting. Now if I take you into the root system, you'll see it is very healthy and very robust. It is circling the container. It is just living its life unbothered. So it's a really, really interesting plant to watch develop, or plants to watch develop. Now let's move on to number 7 in the collection. This is my Dendrobium nobile to my kids. I am so pleased that this plant is doing really well because I did have to divide 2 rotting canes off of it. But it does have 2 new canes on the way. You can see one right here and one on the opposite side coming in quite nicely. Now the interesting thing about this guy is it's been in my collection now almost 3 years. So right around March is when it should go into bud. I'm not sure that it'll do that this year because it really did have to reacclimate to LA when I moved. But I'm optimistic and hopeful that it will. It's a really special relationship when you've owned a plant for years because you start to get into a rhythm and cadence with it and you begin to map out exactly when things are going to happen. So I hope that's something I get to enjoy with this one. Now let's move on to number 8 in the collection. This is my Banfieldara Mystic Maze. And the thing I really wanted to point out here is when I moved from Colorado, this did produce an entirely brand new pseudobulb, which is this one right here, but it is not going to bloom. And it's because it did not have a significant enough root system to support that kind of energy expense. Now it is putting out a brand new growth right here, which I'm super excited about. You can see it's laid an entirely brand new root system. That one new growth has created a root system that'll sustain the entire plant. So I'm certain that this growth will create a flower spike this year, but this one will not. Now moving on to number 9 in the collection, this is my no ID Phalaenopsis. It was a Keiki I took from one of my mom's plants, and I damn near killed it when I was on my Physand kick because I was disinfecting everything and really burnt every single root that this plant had. But what I'm pleased to show you is it is really finally beginning to get comfortable and established. It's really beginning to venture all the way through the medium. It's putting out another root over here. So it's just starting to establish a root system. So I'm pleased to see this one on the path to recovery. Now on to number 13 in the collection. This is my no ID Phragmipedium. And what I really wanted to showcase here is that I have completely managed to halt the die-off. So if I take you into the tips, you can see a lot of the tips were just dying off, left and right, left and right. A bunch of the growths died off. So I stopped fertilizing. I stopped giving it any nutrient solution whatsoever. I started flushing twice a month with just plain reverse osmosis water, and it's been doing really, really well. I think it does not like any hardness. It does not like any potential mineral buildup. So even though I'm not sure that that's the full answer because eventually it may start to become nutrient deficient if I continue this way, it seems to be working for now, and it's allowing these new growths to start to mature. So that's really, really positive. Now on to number 16 in the collection. This is my Nicolasa Tavares Dapper Catasetum. And what I really wanted to show you is how quickly this is developing. Its new growths have just peaked up and out. It never bloomed for me, but it's because I don't think I gave it a proper dormancy this past year. But it is quickly putting out these new growths, and even the new growth is putting out a new growth, which is super bizarre. But I just resumed watering. I will link the video below about how I incorporate slow release fertilizer and what the potting process looks like. But I am optimistic that this year it will give me some flower spikes. It's just well on its way to 2 or at least 3 new beautiful growths. Now on to number 18 in the collection. This is my no ID Zygopetalum, and this is just so remarkable, you guys. So I was certain that this plant was gonna die because it dropped leaf after leaf after leaf when I moved. It just was not doing well. It was never really doing well in Colorado either, but you can see it only had 2 leaves left. I was certain it was gonna die. All of the new growths were dying off, as you can see here. But then I got reverse osmosis water installed. Again, just like with my Phragmipedium, I stopped giving it nutrient solution altogether, and wouldn't you know it, it's producing this beautiful uninterrupted new growth in the back. It seems happy, it seems healthy, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So I think this one is just a really, really low feeder. Although I will say that these are very temperamental plants. If you get any water on the leaves, it spots. If you over-fertilize, it spots. If you under-fertilize, it spots. So I'm off to a good start, but it is a very fragile ecosystem, and I am highly aware of that. I did just want to show you this though, because it's really exciting. Now on to number 21 in the collection. This is my Paphiopedilum Pinocchio Laui hybrid, and this one is just doing so amazingly. It's putting out another new leaf, and I do think that this is going to give me a flower spike this year. It's a sequential bloomer, so that's very, very exciting. But what I really wanted to show you was how gorgeous this root system is. You guys, look at this. For the longest time, it did absolutely nothing, and almost instantaneously after I switched it to reverse osmosis water, it threw down a gigantic and very, very well-established root system. So that's really wonderful. Now on to number 26. This is my Aloha stellar, and this one is also doing just stellar, LOL. So it has this new growth coming in right here at the base. It bloomed for me this year. It has a very well-established root system, so I'm certain it will bloom for me again in the spring. Just look at those roots, so beautiful. It's happy, it's well adjusted, can't get enough. Now on to number 28. Now you guys all know and love 28. I will link its bloom profile below, but here's the interesting thing about this one. Every single time it gives me new growth, it gives me a flight of about 4 to 5 new growths. But right now it is only giving me this one new growth right in here. Let me see if I can take you in on it. Do you guys see it? So it's only giving me one new growth, and what that tells me is that this plant is finally strangling itself inside of the container. It is so densely packed. This plant has just done so well, and it's grown so happily and so robust. But I have been looking at options for a long time because I kind of want to take this to a species size. I want to leave it uninterrupted and see what it can really do, because it's been throwing out more and more blooms over and over. But I went and looked at options, and frankly, I just don't have the space in this apartment for an orchid this size. So I am going to divide this. I finally made the choice. It needs to happen for the health of this plant and to allow it to continue to experience momentum. But also I would like to share this plant with you on my online store. Yes, you heard right. I know I've been talking about it forever, but I'm finally putting some momentum behind it. It is currently being developed. I'm working with a graphic designer and all that good stuff. So you guys will be introduced to my new orchid store and divisions of this plant very soon. Now on to number 34 in the collection. This is my Ludicea discolor, and I will link its bloom profile below. I'll also link number 26, the Aloha that I just showed you. But this one is, I just can't believe how long this has been in bloom. It's been staying in bloom, it's uninterrupted, and it's still got a ways to go, I believe. I just think it's so remarkable that this is the way that this plant has grown and bloomed. It is just such an unexpected treat and so unexpectedly gorgeous. But I am very, very pleased that it continues to bless my home with blooms. Now on a slightly less positive note, let's talk about number 36. This is my Fred Clarkiara After Dark SVO Black Pearl. And man, what a series of heartaches. So this plant grew so well for me this year. This is the prior year's growth that I was not responsible for, and this was my growth. So I was certain it was going to spike, and it actually began to spike. So you can see it had one spike here, which has since dried up, and it had another spike on the opposite side, which has also since dried up. Now the reason that happened is because I treated this plant with rubbing alcohol and dish soap because I discovered it was infested with spider mites. Now if I had just thought really critically about it, I could have inferred that, hey, it's gonna drop these leaves, I don't really need to worry about it. But my process of over-treating this plant completely derailed the bloom process. So that's super unfortunate. I got really excited because it started to create another bloom spike. Where is it? Oh yeah, right here. It started to create another bloom spike, and I was like, it's trying again, I'm so excited. But then that flower spike aborted and it never came to fruition, so that's a big bummer. Now I am waiting for this to come out of dormancy and begin producing a new growth, at which point I will repot it, just like I repotted number 16 in the collection, and hopefully enjoy blooms next year. Now let's move on to number 39. This is the unexpected dark horse of my collection. This is my Zygonesia cynosure bluebirds, and look who decided to throw out a flower spike. OMG, I would have never guessed it. If anyone told me that the next orchid in my collection to go into spike would be this one, I would have laughed in your face because this one has been such an ongoing struggle. Just like my Zygopetalum, it has never done well for me since we got here. It wasn't even doing well for me in Colorado. It dropped literally every single mature leaf it had, and then every new growth it produced started to rot after a certain point. So I was fully resigned that this was going to die and that I was going to lose this plant. And then again, I switched to reverse osmosis. I stopped providing it nutrient solution and it just took off. The root system became really, really established. It gave me this new growth super, super fast. And one of the interesting things about this is flower spikes come on immature growths as opposed to mature growths. So I just can't believe that this is in spike at all. I really hope I don't do anything to derail it. But what an unexpected treat and gift. This is why I love growing orchids, you guys. You think you have an idea of what's going on, but you have no idea. You think you know the inner dialogue, you think you know the quality of their performance, but they just continue to surprise you. It's incredibly humbling and so, so beautiful to observe. Jumping back in with number 46 in the collection, this is the much requested Oncidium Twinkle White Pink. And yes, this plant is doing well because it does have two new growths, as you can see down here on the sides. But the issue with it is it just really isn't acclimating to semi-hydroponics, which is quite unexpected. Oncidium types are usually the fastest and the easiest to adapt to semi-hydroponics, at least in my experience. But this one just isn't putting out new roots. It's not really getting comfortable in the medium. So I do think I'm going to repot this one to add a top layer of sphagnum moss to really encourage that root growth. So that's what's going on with that one. On to number 48. This is my Cymbidium Murasaki Sinense hybrid, and it's doing really well. You can see this new growth is beginning to mature. I can't wait till it produces a pseudobulb, but it also has a brand new growth coming out right here. So I wasn't sure when I converted this one to semi-hydro that Cymbidiums could even grow in this grow method, and it seems to be doing just fine. It did bring along its own host of symbiotic plants, and at first I was really concerned that it was going to strangle out the plant, but it actually seems to be doing better when it has this layer present. So I'm leaving it unattended and monitoring it, but I'm just not going to interfere with its natural processes. Now on to number 54. This is my Cattleya Volcano Prince. After adaptation to semi-hydro, the root system has just exploded. It is fully expansive in the container. It's growing out of the drainage holes. So I really look forward to reincorporating nutrient solution and seeing how quickly this gives me a bloom. I definitely think it's going to bloom for me this year. Now on to number 55. This is another Keiki that I took from my mom's plant. This is Funfetti Fal, and I was concerned it wasn't going to do well because the leaves started to look a little bit dehydrated. But shortly after converting it to semi-hydroponics, let me see if I can find the roots, it's really starting to venture downward into the medium and expand its root system. So I think that this has a very promising future. Last but not least, we're going to talk about number 56 in the collection. This is my Miltonia Sunset, and I couldn't be more pleased with its performance. You guys, it's so funny. I purchased this orchid as an insurance policy for myself because I knew that something was off with number 24. If you watched my last video, you know I just lost number 24 to Fusarium wilt. But I bought this thinking, okay, I probably won't need it and I'll probably just resell it. But I ended up needing it, and I'm really, really glad I got it because it's doing so well. I avoided giving this a formal number and incorporating it into the collection for a very long time, again, because I didn't think I was going to keep it or have it stick around. But this is now going to be an integral part of the collection because Miltonia Sunsets are one of my absolute favorite orchids, and I'm so pleased this one is doing well. I converted it to semi-hydro about 2 months ago, and look at it acclimating. It's got plenty of new green root tips. It's venturing down. That top layer of sphagnum moss has really encouraged that process. But it seems happy, it seems unbothered, it has a new growth here, it has a new growth here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one develops and thrives. So with that, that's pretty much it, you guys. Thank you so much, as always, for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to click subscribe and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, guys.